Biennale Jogja 16, 2021. Indonesia with Oceania.
Discuss the artistic process and also the narratives of each of the works presented by artists. It was very interesting and dynamic discussions. And then now we will be continuing the conversations into the second session, where I will be talking with my co-curator, Jung-Un Lim, in Seoul, in Korea, where we had been working of this exhibition since more than 6 months ago, preparing the exhibition online and also having discussions with the artists through different online platforms. And unfortunately, we cannot bring all the artists to have direct meetings and interactions here to Yogyakarta. But we are very grateful that all the 7 artists we invited into the exhibition participated in the Hacking Domesticity exhibitions. They successfully installed the works, and we had already 6 weeks of the exhibition, and it will be closing very soon by this Saturday. So thank you very much for the artists, for the hard works and the time and effort to prepare the works. First, I would like to introduce our colleagues that will be in the conversations with me and Jung-Un, Tessa Maria Guazon. So not only giving us the response, but Tessa also will be sharing her own experience and in curating the exhibitions in Southeast Asia and beyond, where we focusing on how the female artists practice and the feminism movement also becoming important dynamic of our contemporary art practice today. So I would like to read Tessa's biodata here. Tessa Maria Guazon is an educator, writer, and curator based in Manila, the Philippines. Her curatorial and research interests center on the contemporary art practice in Southeast Asia and art mediation of the public sphere. Her most recent research and curatorial projects include the Southeast Asia Neighborhood Network, organized by International Institute of Asian Studies in Leiden, the Netherlands. She also she was the curator for Philippine Pavilion on the 58th Venice Art Biennale, and now she is part of the curatorial team of Asian Art Biennale that is run now in Taichung, Taiwan. Thank you, Tessa, for joining with us. So first, I would like to introduce the concept of the Hacking Domesticity exhibition. I would like to share with you from the website. Can I start to share, yeah? Yeah. So when I was approached by the ASEAN Foundation to organize an exhibition as part of the Biennale Jogja 16 Equator 6 2021, where we focus on our encounter with Oceania, we think also how to expand the idea of the geopolitical imagination, that talking about Oceania is not only talking about the geographical room, but also we think about the politic of locations and also different problem of gender, ecology, and other matters in Asia and beyond. So aside of BILIK Korea, we also have BILIK Taiwan this year. And particularly for the BILIK Korea, we were thinking to discuss more on focusing on the practice of female artists. Since I think for me as a personal, from my personal experience as a curator and been working quite often with Korea, I felt like there is the lack of knowledge, the lack of sharing platform between artists or art practitioners from Southeast Asia and Korea. We don't really know how the impact or how the history of the movement each other. So I think BILIK Korea Connect ASEAN will be very good platform for us to start to understand and learning from each other experience on how the women's movement and also the dynamics of women's positions in the society that is happening in different contexts in different culture of Asian countries. So that's how somehow I felt I want to use this opportunity to create exhibition that bring together artists from Southeast Asia and South Korea to discuss different issues and problems that related to political violence, history, ecology, but also at the same time discussing the experience of being women as their identity and as the politics of identity in Asia. So then, we collaborate with Jong Un Lim for this exhibition that later on she invited two very interesting and important Korean artists. But this presentation, I will be focusing on the Southeast Asian artists that we present in the exhibitions. In the first session, we already have Agnes Christina and Etsa Maisara and Sausre Mao from Cambodia. So I will give you a bit more teaser of the exhibition while I'm explaining why hacking domesticity was chosen as the title of this exhibition. Okay. So the exhibition happened in two venues. Yeah. Yeah. So that is like introduction or the teaser of the exhibition. So you can see how each of the works by Indonesian artists, Cambodian artists, and artists from Thailand intertwine and in the encounters to the works by South Korean artists. First, I would like to introduce the theme, hacking domesticity, and I think in a way the term of hacking itself reflected the situation today where artists and the whole society also thinking about the medium and how to use the technology in our everyday life. So not only the technology also shows there is the gap of access in mastering the technology and the use of technology, but at the same time also we try to hack the technology where we use technology as well to advocate our positions and our fight and identities struggle and process. So for me, using the term hacking also shows how we don't we are not only be the passive object in the use of technology, but we try to master and use technology more into our benefits, and even use that for our activism, and to bring the issues into a wider public space. And the same as domesticity, while I think during the pandemic situation, in 2 years, most of the people, most of the members of the society, they have to be uh, somehow being forced to stay at home. And this is the time and the period where we try to redefine our notion of domesticity, while we always think the house or the domestic area as something private, but at the same time, the social movement of the grassroots, and also from the women's movements, showing how the domestic area, the domestic sphere, playing very important role in bringing back the society into solidarity. I reflect, for example, there are many how you call public kitchen being set up by the mothers in some neighborhood in Indonesia, where they shows the solidarity by cooking together and distribute the foods around the neighborhood. So people who lost the job, or they didn't earn money anymore during the pandemic, they still can survive in their life. So for me, this is also showing how the the activities in the domestic sphere, for example, cooking or nurturing the life by feeding, is become very central activities during the pandemic. So these two phenomena, how we use technology, but at the same time bringing and building the solidarity during pandemic from the domestic area, from the house, become one of the basic and the foundation of my reflection for this exhibition. But at the same time, I would like to bring the idea of domesticity or the domestic space itself to be expanded, not only talking about what happened in the house, but at the same time, domesticity as our sites of memories of the past traumas. And there are artists in this exhibition that somehow smoothly they bring the discourse and the narratives of political trauma, political violence into new interpretation and new imagination, as what we heard from Agnes before, where she reflect and redefine her experience of being Chinese minority in Indonesia, and how what happened in 1998 really somehow shaping her own definition of self, her own positions in the society. And Ampani Sato from Thailand, she also strongly reflects how the Muslim women in Narathiwat and in the south part of Thailand, they always have to struggle to fight for their positions and their identity. uh, like also they have to face the military power, but at the same time to let go and to nurture the future of life. And this in the end also bringing the issues of ecology. I want to show you the work by Fitri. As we heard from Etsa before, how she used the metaphor of women who works in the farming area and the rice as the symbol of feminine energy. I think at the same time also we can reflect the works by by Fitri Dwi Kurniasih here, in this exhibition where she created the work to as the memorial of the struggle of mothers in Kendeng in Central Java while they are struggling against the build of cement industry in their area. So for example, this is the work by Fitri that strongly and poetically, metaphorically shows how the metaphor from the domestic area, like this is the tools, the terracotta that we use for drinking in the village from the clay, and she put the fighting hands, the symbol of fighting hands, as part of the installations. And then this is also the works from batik that she presented. Can we make it in the full size? Okay. So this is one of the very strong part of the collective memory of our generation when we discuss about issues of kendeng, where all the mothers here they perform, they sat on the chairs and they put the cement on their feet to show their defense in against the building of cement industry in their area. This is how it looks in details. We can see the cements in their foot. I think they did it almost like I think around a week, yeah. So this is a very poetic metaphor on how women defended their life and their land. This is her work. So Fitri before was known for her printmaking works using graphic and woodcuts technique. So this is print on fabric. This is the tent. So the mothers from Kendeng area, they started this struggle around 5-6 years ago, and they stay in the tent for weeks as a action to protest the build of this cement factory. As similar as Etsa, Fitri uses the metaphor of gejok lesung as the social platform of women to be together in solidarity and struggle. So we can see how the space of the domestic also become the central part of women's struggle in ecology issue and environmental issues. In the end, the mothers from Kendeng, they lost the case. So the court, they give the permission for the cement factory to be built in their area. But for us, the younger generation, their spirit and their resistance towards this industrialization really gives us the inspiration on how women becoming in the forefront of our struggle in environmental issues. This is the work by Ampani. So this is also shows how women were portrayed in their everyday life situation. So their positions and their roles as mothers, as women who take care and nurture the household and also nurturing the kids. But at the same time, we see that the political trauma that coming from the chaotic situation in the past, they can overcome and go on with their life. And at the same time, they become the the hero of their family. Yeah. So reflecting on how we collaborate each other and discuss each other. So before the exhibition happened, we already organized three or four times meeting where we try to understand different situations of gender issues in Southeast Asia and Korea. And I think the process itself becoming part of the important point, not only the exhibition, but the whole conversation between artists and curators, and how we open and we try to build our spirit of solidarity of different problems in Asia, and how women's becoming in the forefront of this struggle. I think every artist, they have different concerns and issues where they pay attention to the discriminations, the marginalizations of women's and also other social groups. But at the same time, they have the empathy and the thinking of future collaboration, where I think it is important for us to keep and to maintain the network, so we can together we can give the voice of different artistic practice in contemporary art. Yeah, I think that's from me, and I will give the time and Prince to Jong-un.
안녕하세요. 저는 임종은입니다.
Halo, saya adalah Im Jong-un.
저도 알리아 씨와 협력한 것과 그다음에 7명의 작가들과 함께 하게 된 것이 너무나 영광스럽고 기쁜 과정이었습니다.
Saya merasa terhormat bisa bekerja sama dengan Ibu Alia dan juga 7 seniman lainnya di dalam acara ini.
저도 오늘 제가 여성들과 혹은 제가 이제 그 전시를 통해서 아시아나 또 여성 그리고 그 족자카르타 비엔날레 지금 전시와 어떤 뜻을 결을 같이 하는 내용으로 이야기를 해보려고 합니다.
Sekarang saya akan berbicara mengenai pertukaran antara Asia dengan Korea, Korea dan Indonesia dalam hal ini Asia, dan juga mengenai pameran yang saya kuratorialkan di dalam Biennale Jogja.
예, 그 화면이 보이실까요?
Apakah sudah terlihat apa yang saya sharekan?
Yes.
예. 이게 이제 저도 이 전시를 비디오로만 인터넷으로만 보게 돼서 첫 페이지를 이렇게 가져왔습니다.
Saya juga sebetulnya hanya pernah melihat ini dari online saja, tidak pernah melihat langsung. Jadi apa boleh buat, saya hanya bisa memperlihatkan video saja.
우리가 다른 나라에 가지 못해도 비엔날레를 열 수 있다는 것은 굉장히 좋은 일이면서 모순적인 일인 것 같습니다.
Walaupun kita sekarang tidak bisa pergi ke negara lain karena adanya corona, akan tetapi menurut saya ini adalah suatu hal yang hebat, kita bisa mengadakan Biennale saat ini.
사실 비엔날레라는 거는 세계화 이후에 어떤 정말 강력한 미술 제도인데요.
Jadi sebetulnya seperti yang Anda tahu semuanya bahwa Biennale itu adalah satu hal yang baik untuk kondisi era global saat ini.
이 강력한 거대한 자본주의나 고정된 서구의 관념의 미술에 조금이라도 균열을 낼 수 있는 것은 여성 또 아시아에 대한 키워드로 가능한 것 같습니다.
Untuk itu saya tertarik menempatkan seni rupa kontemporer Asia dalam nilai-nilai dan ideologi tradisional yang diciptakan kembali dalam seni rupa kontemporer di dalam seni rupa yang mengglobal.
그래서 지금 제가 갖고 온 그림은 지난번 베니스 비엔날레의 한국관의 모습이고,
jadi sekarang yang sedang saya perlihatkan adalah pavilion Korea yang muncul di Biennale Venice.
그리고 이것은 이번 족자카르타 비엔날레에 우리와 함께한 세이렌 정은영 작가의 작품입니다.
Dan sekarang yang saya perlihatkan ini adalah salah satu karya dari Siren Jong-eun yang ada di Biennale Jogja.
예, 여기 정은영 작가의 제가 상하이 비엔날레에서 만났던 정은영 작가의 모습이고요.
Jadi yang ini foto sekarang adalah foto saya bersama dengan Siren Eun-Yong yang bertemu dengan saya di Singapura waktu itu.
예, 저도 이제 상하이 비엔날레의 조그만 부분을 참여했습니다.
Saya juga pernah mengunjungi dan juga berikut serta dalam Biennale Shanghai.
지금은 정말 많은 작가들과 또 큐레이터들이 이런 비엔날레를 통해서 자기의 예술적인 실천들을 하는데요.
Sebetulnya melalui Biennale ini kita bisa melihat bagaimana point of view atau pandangan para kurator dan juga para seniman.
이것은 또 이번에 참여한 장지아 작가의 영국에서 열린 폴리 트리엔날레의 한 장면입니다.
Sekarang yang saya perlihatkan kepada Anda adalah salah satu karya dari Chang Jia, Pak seniman Chang Jia yang diperlihatkan di Inggris.
예, 장지아와 정은영의 작품을 통해서 우리는 이제 해킹 도메스틱 시리, 그러니까 여러 가지 관점으로 사실은 풍부한 작품 세계를 갖고 있는 작가들인데요. 하지만 이번 주제인 해킹 도메스틱 시리를 통해서 여성 작가로서 어떻게 살아가는 역사 또 정치, 사회적인 환경에서 생존하는 그것들을 얘기해 보고자 했습니다.
Jadi seniman Chang Jia dan juga Siren Eun-Yong, jadi kedua seniman ini sudah ditafsirkan dalam beberapa lapisan. Tetapi untuk pameran Hacking Domesticity Biennale Yogyakarta tahun ini, saya ingin memulai dengan berbagai perjuangan seniman wanita melalui sejarah, politik, dan kondisi sosial yang mirip.
예, 여기에 지금 보이는 작품이 사실은 2014년도에 올해 작가상을 받은 코리아 아티스트 프라이즈를 받은 작품 전시인데 이 작품이 비디오로 또 족자카르타 비엔날레에 소개되어서 이 화면을 지금 보여드리고 있는데요.
Jadi yang saya perlihatkan kepada Anda ini adalah salah satu karya yang mendapatkan Korea Artist Prize 2014 dan diperlihatkan di salah satu museum di Gwacheon, dan kita juga bisa melihat ini dalam bentuk video di Biennale Jogja.
이 작품은 여성들이 모여서 노래를 부르면서 어떤 행위를 하는 작품입니다. 이 노래는 전통적인 한국의 옛날 노동요 그러니까 이제 일을 하면서 부르는 노래를 통해서 여성들이 자신의 몸의 쾌감을 느끼는 내용입니다.
Jadi sebetulnya karya ini adalah karya di mana para perempuan itu berkumpul, lalu mereka yang berkumpul itu bernyanyi dan menyanyikan lagu tradisional Korea. Jadi lagu ini berjudul namanya Nodongyo, atau kalau misalnya diterjemahkan dalam bahasa Indonesia adalah lagu dalam pekerjaan. Jadi bagaimana para perempuan ini berkumpul dan bernyanyi saat bekerja.
이 작품은 정은영 작가의 또 이번 전시 출품작이기도 하고요. 여성 예술가 이 작품들에는 어떤 일하는 여성, 예술을 하는 여성들이 두 작가의 작품에 나옵니다. 이것들은 사실 역사의 경험이 만든 시대의 산물이고 또 동시에 시대를 돌파하는 양면적인 성격이 있는 다면적인 역할을 수행합니다. 이 작품들은 동시대 예술을 다룰 때 생각해 봐야 되는 문제들을 많이 담고 있다고 생각합니다. 그래서 저도 이 전시에 대해서 글 쓴 제목도 근대 아시아의 경험과 기억의 실천적 대응으로서 여성, 예술가, 그리고 되기 이렇게 정해봤습니다.
Kemunculan seniman wanita dalam karyanya, otonom atau tidak, merupakan produk zaman tersebut yang dibentuk modern dan kontemporer, dan pada saat yang sama memainkan peran yang beragam dalam mengeksplorasi kondisi era tersebut. Oleh karena itu, karya-karya ini memberikan peluang estetis dan politis untuk mengkaji persoalan ketika berhadapan dengan subjek seni rupa kontemporer dengan 3 dimensi. Oleh karena itu, judul artikel yang saya tulis tentang pameran ini adalah Menjadi Seorang Wanita dan Seorang Seniman sebagai tanggapan praktis terhadap sejarah dan kenangan Asia modern dan kontemporer.
네, 여기는 이제 족자카르타 비엔날레 베뉴에서 장지아 작가의 다른 작품을 선보인 것들을 가져와 봤습니다.
Saat ini saya juga memperlihatkan kepada Anda salah satu karya yang muncul di Biennale Jogja.
사실 그 한국은 동남아시아하고 많은 교류를 전에는 하지는 않았습니다. 사실은 교류를 많이 했어도 그 경제적인 부분을 하고 문화적인 부분은 이제 최근에 시작되었는데요.
Setahu saya sebetulnya Asia Tenggara dan Korea juga memiliki hanya sedikit pertukaran satu sama lain. Dan setahu saya untuk pertukaran dari segi budaya dan seni itu baru terjadi banyak akhir-akhir ini saja.
하지만 이런 비엔날레를 통해서 우리가 서로 교류할 수 있는 것은 정말 큰 의미가 있는 것 같습니다.
Tapi menurut saya adalah satu hal yang besar bahwa kita bisa bertemu di sini di Biennale Jogja dan juga bertukar satu sama lain.
이것은 2006년도에 제가 한국의 최초의 대한 공간인 루프라는 곳에 큐레이터였을 때 만들었던 전시입니다.
Jadi yang saya perlihatkan kepada Anda semua ini adalah loop dan ini adalah salah satu karya kurator saya pertama yang saya lakukan di Korea.
아주 공식적인 건 아니지만 아마 최초의 동남아시아 작가들과 만든 최초의 기획 전시였던 것 같습니다.
Mungkin ini bukan salah satu yang terbesar dan juga resmi, tapi ini adalah salah satu pameran Asia Tenggara pertama di Korea.
옆에 보면 앙키 프로반도 씨가 보이는데 아마 인도네시아 분들은 아실 만한 작가일 것 같습니다.
Seperti yang Anda lihat di layar, ada seseorang yang bernama Angki Purbandono, dan mungkin Anda tahu semua bahwa Angki adalah salah satu seniman yang populer di Indonesia.
네, 그 루프라는 공간은 아시아에 많은 관심을 갖고 있었던 기관이어서 제가 그런 경험을 할 수 있었고요. 여기서 했던 이런 전시들을 잠깐 보여드리고
Jadi Loop itu adalah salah satu ruang alternatif yang ada di Korea dan juga memiliki perhatian yang sangat besar terhadap karya-karya di Asia. Oleh karena itu saya memperlihatkan kepada Anda mengenai Loop yang ada di Korea.
예, 제가 이제 몇 년 전에 족자카르타에 방문했을 때 마침 앙키 프로반도 씨가 여기에 또 방문을 해서 만났었습니다.
Jadi saya memperlihatkan kepada Anda foto di mana saya bertemu dengan Angki di Yogyakarta pada tahun 2018. Saya sangat senang bisa bertemu dengan beliau saat saya mengunjungi Yogyakarta.
네, 저는 사실은 아시아 전통, 특히 이제 동북아시아를 배경으로 한 전통에 관심이 있는 큐레이터였고요. 전에는.
Sebetulnya saya adalah seorang kurator yang memiliki ketertarikan yang sangat besar kepada seni-seni tradisional, terutama seni-seni tradisional dari Asia Timur.
그리고 미술이라는 말은 어쨌든 한국 입장에서는 서구에서 들어온 말이기 때문에 그것들에 대한 새로운 재해석, 이것이 저의 큐레이터로서의 실천이 되었습니다.
Oleh karena itu, misul atau ke dalam bahasa Indonesianya adalah seni, itu jadi saya ingin melakukan reinterpretasi terhadap kata-kata tersebut.
예. 그래서 제가 이제 일본 도쿄 원더 사이트나 아니면 중국이나 이제 아시아에 가서 그 전통 예술이 현대하고 어떤 관계를 갖는지 이제 연구들을 하고 아까 보신 것처럼 전시를 이제 하기도 했습니다.
Jadi seperti yang Anda lihat di beberapa foto yang saya sampaikan di layar Anda, saya sempat berkeliling ke Jepang dan juga Tiongkok dan beberapa kota yang ada di dalamnya untuk meneliti apa saja seni-seni tradisional yang ada di dalamnya dan bagaimana itu berpengaruh terhadap seni modern di negara tersebut.
여기는 이제 장지아 작가의 작품인데 그 당시에 아까 지금 족자카르타 비엔날레 때 보셨던 작품을 저희가 같이 중국의 경험을 통해서 만들었습니다.
Jadi seperti yang Anda lihat di layar Anda, ini adalah karya dari seorang seniman yang bernama Chang Jia, dan ini dibawa kembali ke Tiongkok untuk mendapatkan pengalaman dari Tiongkok.
예, 전시장에 가시면 이제 이 작품을 보실 수 있는데 이것은 사실은 예전에 100년 전에 중국에서 썼던 외과용 수술 도구입니다.
Mungkin sekarang terlihatnya kurang jelas ya di layar Anda, tetapi ini sebetulnya semua bisa dilihat di Biennale Jogja dengan lebih jelas. Dan ini yang Anda lihat di semua ini adalah alat-alat medis yang digunakan sekitar 100 tahun yang lalu.
하지만 작가님은 작가적인 상상력으로 이것을 고문 도구로 만들었습니다.
Tapi sebagai seorang seniman, ia menggunakan alat-alat sejarah ini untuk membuat sebuah karya seni yang lebih baru.
작가님은 고통을 주는 고문 도구와 사람을 낫게 하는 수술 도구, 이 사이 이 가운데 있는 몸의 감각을 얘기하는 작가입니다.
Jadi sebetulnya alat medis ini dulu juga digunakan untuk untuk membuat hukuman seperti itu. Jadi seniman tersebut membuat suatu karya seni yang menggabungkan antara alat medis untuk menyelamatkan orang dan juga alat hukuman yang untuk membunuh atau untuk menghukum orang tersebut.
예, 여성의 몸에 대한 이야기들을 아주 과감하게 하는 그런 흥미로운 작가라고 할 수 있겠습니다.
Saya bisa bilang bahwa beliau adalah seorang seniman yang sangat memiliki daya tarik yang besar terhadap seni yang berkaitan dengan perempuan.
여기는 이제 대한민국 역사박물관인데요. 이것은 제가 그 제주도에 있었던 역사적인 비극적인 사건 4.3 전시를 했습니다.
Seperti yang Anda lihat di layar, ini adalah foto dari Museum Sejarah Korea, dan saya akan memperkenalkan kepada Anda mengenai salah satu peristiwa tragis yang pernah terjadi di Pulau Jeju, Korea.
아시아는 대부분 비슷한 기억을 갖고 있는데 그것들이 사실 우리를 또 오늘 이 자리에 모이게 한 것 같습니다.
Setahu saya di berbagai negara di Asia itu memiliki sejarah dan memori kelam yang sama. Oleh karena itu saya datang membawa salah satu memori itu untuk berbagi kepada Anda semua.
그 이념 이데올로기 때문에 그 민간인을 학살하는 사건이 제주도에 있었고 이것은 너무나 큰 비극이었습니다.
Jadi sebetulnya di Jeju, Pulau Jeju yang ada di Korea pada zaman dahulu itu ada salah satu kasus besar, yaitu kasus intinya pembunuhan masyarakat karena ada salah satu ideologi yang berbeda, itu dari tahun 1948.
하지만 이 비극적인 사건도 남성 젊은 피해자에 대한 대부분의 작품들이 들어가 있고 여성에 대한 피해들, 뭐 죽음이라든지 강간이라든지 이런 문제들은 대부분 가려졌습니다.
Akan tetapi mungkin sama seperti di negara lain, dalam kasus peristiwa tragis yang besar tersebut banyak yang meninggal dan juga banyak juga yang menjadi pahlawan. Tetapi kalau kita lihat semuanya rata-rata laki-laki. Padahal pasti ada korban juga yang perempuan.
그래서 또 여러 가지 그리고 또 그 거친 힘든 상황 속에서도 그 사람들을 도왔던 사람이 있는데 이건 너무 이념 문제였기 때문에 단 한 사람만 사람들을 도왔던 의인으로 좋았던 사람으로 공식적으로 기록이 되어 있는데 그건 어떤 남성입니다.
Jadi sebetulnya pada masa itu sangat sulit untuk saling membantu satu sama lain karena akan lebih mudah untuk dilihat oleh pemerintah saat itu. Sehingga di dalam catatan sejarah hanya ada satu orang yang tercatat itu banyak membantu sebagai dokter untuk orang-orang lain yang waktu itu meninggal atau sedang luka. Tetapi seperti yang kita tahu pasti sebetulnya ada juga wanita yang membantu orang-orang di sekitar situ pada saat itu.
그래서 저는 당연히 어떤 여성들도 이 일에 희생을 당했고 또 누군가를 도왔을 거라는 당연한 상상을 하게 됐고요. 예술가와 함께 우리는 알 수 없지만 그 당시에 당연히 있었을 것 같은 여성을 상상으로 작품에 넣기로 합니다.
Saya merasa pasti ada perempuan-perempuan yang saling membantu satu sama lain dan juga yang menjadi korban pada saat itu. Oleh karena itu saya bekerja sama dengan seniman untuk membuat satu karya seni yang sebetulnya ini fiktif untuk menggambarkan para perempuan yang menjadi korban pada saat itu.
네, 해서 거기에 또 여기 제이진 카이젠 작가님의 작품이 있는데 여기도 여성 피해자들에 대한 이야기들을 하고 이것들이 어떤 역사적인 사실에서 지워진 여성들을 얘기할 때 이 사건을 더 잘 볼 수 있게 하는 그런 계기들을 마련해 줍니다.
Oleh karena itu saya bekerja sama dengan seorang seniman yang bernama Jeijin Kaisen dan juga saya menggambarkan peran-peran dari wanita yang terhapus dari sejarah.
예, 제가 제이진 카이젠을 얘기한 이유는 아까 우리 세이렌 정은영 작가님과 함께 2019년도 베니스 비엔날레에 한국관에 같이 참여했기 때문입니다.
Saya berbicara mengenai Jeijin Kaisen karena waktu itu saya bekerja sama dengan beliau dan juga Siren Enyongjong dalam Biennale Venice.
네. 예. 그 비엔날레 얘기를 저희가 비엔날레 속에서 하고 있는데요. 이것은 이제 제가 상하이에서 했던 상하이 종이 비엔날레의 한 장면입니다.
Kita dari tadi selalu berbicara mengenai Biennale kan. Jadi saat ini saya akan memperlihatkan kepada Anda mengenai Biennale di Shanghai.
여기 장지아 작가의 작품이 잠깐 보이고요.
Saya akan memperlihatkan kepada Anda sekarang mengenai karya dari seniman yang bernama Chang Jia.
예, 여기는 이제 김지평 작가님의 작품이 보이는데 이 작품 같은 경우에는 여성의 몸으로 은유된 그 그림이 관객들을 오히려 바라보게 하고 있습니다. 사실 전통 미술이라는 것은 굉장히 가부장적이고 남성 중심적인데 여성이 주체가 되는 장면을 만들었습니다.
Saya ingin menceritakan mengenai sebuah interpretasi baru tentang wanita yang tersisih dari seni tradisional dalam bahasa tradisional. Ini adalah karya dari seorang seniman yang bernama Ji Pyong Kim dan ukurannya sebesar tubuh manusia. Kami menyebutnya Jogja, tapi bukan Yogyakarta di Indonesia ya, tetapi gambar gulung dalam bentuk yang tradisional. Jadi ini sebesar tubuh manusia. Dan sebagai metafora untuk karya tradisional wanita, karya ini adalah bentuk seni tradisional dan karya ini menunjukkan bahwa sebagai seorang wanita itu karya ini memperhatikan orang-orang yang memperhatikan karya ini.
예, 그 전통과 여성을 같이 얘기하는 것은 이거 넘어가야겠다. 그다음에 저는 이제 동북아시아의 미술 전통 안에서 그 가부장적인 것을 극복하는 여성들에 대한 이야기들을 좀 많이 하고 싶었는데 제가 인도네시아에 지금 여기 온 장면입니다. 자카르타에서 제가 리서치를 하는 장면인데요.
Jadi sebetulnya sebagai seorang peneliti dari Asia dan sebagai seorang peneliti dari Asia Timur, saya ingin melakukan penelitian terkait seni dan sejarah yang ada di Asia. Jadi yang saya perlihatkan kepada Anda sekarang ini adalah foto-foto waktu saya berkunjung ke Jakarta.
예, 여기서 제가 정말 미술의 의미가 너무나 다양하고 풍부하다는 것을 알게 됐고 우리가 비엔날레 같이 그 국제화된 느낌의 미술이 아니라 정말 우리 삶 속에서 함께하는 미술들을 많이 느꼈습니다.
Jadi saya datang ke sini dan menyadari bahwa seni itu sangat kaya dan sangat bervariasi. Oleh karena itu saya merasa bahwa seni itu bukan hanya milik dari Biennale saja, tetapi seni itu juga adalah milik dari kita semua sebagai manusia bersama-sama.
네, 그러면서 우리가 서로 연결돼 있다는 것들을 많이 느꼈는데요. 이건 제가 이제 서울에서 인도네시아 작가님들과 많은 아시아 작가님들을 초대해서 만들었던 전시입니다.
Jadi seperti yang Anda ketahui semua, kita ini bertemu satu sama lain dan juga melakukan pertukaran satu sama lain sehingga bisa mendapatkan karya seni yang baru. Yang sekarang saat ini Anda lihat adalah salah satu karya yang ditampilkan di Seoul dan juga bekerja sama dengan seniman dari Indonesia.
네, 해서 하는 거는 이번 족자카르타 비엔날레에도 참여한 시타미치 모토유키 작가님의 작품인데요. 궁극의 거래라는 전시고 이 작품은 한국에서 버려진 쓰레기가 오키나와까지 흘러가서 거기서 다시 오키나와 장인에 의해서 아름다운 작품이 돼서 한국으로 다시 돌아온 상황입니다. 쓰레기의 이동을 통해서도 우리가 연결돼 있다는 것을 알 수 있습니다.
Yang Anda lihat sekarang ini adalah karya dari seniman yang bernama Motoyuki Shitamichi yang berpartisipasi juga dalam Biennale Jogja. Jadi beliau itu menggunakan botol kaca bekas yang sebetulnya adalah sampah yang datang dari Korea dan juga dari Tiongkok, tetapi mengalir hingga sampai ke pantai Okinawa. Jadi beliau bekerja sama dengan berbagai seniman yang ada di Okinawa dan membuat berbagai botol kaca yang indah. Botol-botol kaca ini dibuat di Okinawa tapi dikembalikan lagi sebagai bentuk pameran di Korea, tepatnya di Seoul. Dan kita bisa melihat di sini adanya sebuah pertukaran yang besar dari sampah saja. Dan dalam pameran ini makna berbagi ditambahkan dengan meletakkan botol kaca di atas meja.
네, 그런데 이 유리병은 예전에 오키나와에 있는 미군 해군 기지로부터 나온 것이고 그 2차 세계 대전의 아픔을 간직한 어떤 역사적인 증거라고 할 수 있습니다.
Sebetulnya yang Anda lihat ini adalah botol Coca-Cola yang sebetulnya ada waktu Perang Dunia Kedua dan ini dibawa oleh para prajurit dari Amerika dan sebetulnya kita melihat ini saja bisa melihat bagaimana ada cerita sejarah yang pedih yang terjadi di Okinawa pada saat Perang Dunia Kedua.
이것이 이 지역의 전통 공예가 되었는데요.
Sebetulnya di Okinawa sendiri ini menjadi salah satu prakarya seni loh.
이 전통 공예의 그 전통을 가지고 이 작가가 이 유리병을 만든 것입니다.
Jadi seniman ini menggunakan salah satu seni tradisional yang ada di Okinawa dan juga membuat karya seni berbentuk botol kaca ini.
아시아는 비슷한 식민 경험을 가지고 있고 또 각각 다른 민주화 경험을 가지고 있습니다.
Setahu saya Asia ini memiliki masa lalu yang sama terkait dengan penjajahan dan juga demokratisasi.
네, 그래서 아시아를 함께 연구하고 작품을 만들수록 그런 생각이 더 깊이 되는 것 같습니다.
Oleh karena itu semakin banyak saya melihat mengenai sejarah Asia dan juga semakin banyak saya meneliti mengenai Asia, semakin saya paham persamaan yang menyatukan kita.
이 작품은 이루안 티타 인도네시아 작가님 작품인데요.
Karya ini merupakan karya dari Irwan Tita yang merupakan seniman dari Indonesia.
인도네시아의 노동자들이 대만에 가서 이제 잘못 실수로 범죄를 저지르고 감옥에 갔고 그것들에 대한 비디오를 만든 작품입니다.
Jadi seniman tersebut membuat suatu karya seni terkait dengan pekerja migran yang ada di Taiwan, dan juga si pekerja migran ini menjadi seorang kriminal di Taiwan dan juga menangis menceritakan kisah sedihnya yang ada di Taiwan.
네, 그 사람들은 돈 때문에 타이완에 갔고 지금은 감옥에 있지만 그들의 편지는 작품이 돼서 한국으로 다시 왔습니다.
Jadi mereka semua, jadi para pekerja tersebut, mereka sekarang berada di penjara karena mereka melakukan suatu kejahatan, dan cerita-cerita mereka dikumpulkan melalui surat menjadi salah satu karya seni dan ditampilkan di museum di Korea.
네, 뭐 이런 이동에 대한 전시도 했지만 설탕과 소금이라는 아시아인들이라면 좀 공감할 수 있는 우리 근대 역사를 담고 있는 물질에 대해서도 전시를 한 적이 있습니다.
Untuk memperkenalkan pameran yang baru-baru ini, saya juga ingin melihat kembali sejarah ekonomi masyarakat dan budaya yang terbentang di balik rasa, gula, dan garam. Dan gula dan garam seperti yang Anda ketahui adalah bahan dasar untuk karya seniman kontemporer karena merupakan salah satu kesamaan dari berbagai tempat di dunia.
네, 이 작품은 지금 족자카르타 비엔날레에서 일하고 있는 엘리아 누르비스타 씨의 작품인데요.
Jadi sekarang Anda lihat semua ini di layar Anda adalah karya dari Elia Nurvia yang ada di Nurvista di Biennale Jogja.
예, 그 설탕과 인도네시아의 어떤 역사적인 아주 슬픈 사건들을 얘기해주고 있습니다.
Jadi dia menceritakan mengenai gula dan garam dan juga cerita-cerita sedih yang ada di Indonesia.
네, 이 작품도 역시 그 엘리아 씨의 작품이고요.
Ini juga merupakan karya dari Elia.
이 작품은 이제 한국 작가 이완 작가의 작품인데 역시 설탕 한 스푼을 얻기 위해서 이 작가님이 대만에 이렇게 직접 가서 한 달 동안 고생한 이야기를 담고 있습니다.
Dan selanjutnya saya perlihatkan kepada Anda karya dari Wan Lee yang merupakan seniman dari Korea. Jadi dia memperlihatkan bagaimana sebuah segenggam atau sebuah gula itu bisa dibuat, dan sehingga dia datang ke Taiwan dalam 1 bulan dan memperlihatkan bagaimana cara gula itu dibuat.
예, 우리가 설탕과 소금이라는 아주 단순한 재료로도 아시아가 너무나 비슷한 경험을 많이 하고 있다는 것들을 이 전시를 통해서 느꼈고요.
Sebetulnya kalau kita lihat gula dan garam itu merupakan hal yang paling dasar dalam kehidupan masyarakat Asia. Tetapi kita juga melihat bahwa gula dan garam itu bisa kita bawa menjadi suatu karya seni yang dipamerkan di dalam tempat seperti ini.
네, 이건 이제 아까 보여드렸던 장지아 작가님과 또 정은영 작가님의 작품인데요.
Sekarang saya akan perlihatkan kepada Anda mengenai karya dari Chang Jia dan juga Jong Eun-young.
예, 우리가 비엔날레에서 아시아, 여성, 그리고 우리의 연대를 얘기해야 되는 이유를 제가 앞에서 뭐라 그럴까 너무 많이 그러니까 정신없이 말씀을 드렸는데 역사와 또 미술에 대한 이야기 이런 것들을 비엔날레라는 아주 견고한 틀에 이 어떤 불일치하는 방향으로 이야기할 수 있는 건 정말 여성과 아시아에 대한 어떤 키워드들인 것 같습니다. 이거 그대로 읽어주세요. 네.
Model pameran Biennale atau pameran internasional merupakan gejala dan kondisi dari era global yang saling terhubung satu sama lain. Namun tampaknya menjadi sangat bermakna untuk berkreasi dengan kata kunci Asia dan wanita dengan cara yang menolak hegemoni kapitalisme global yang berorientasi pasar. Dan saya mengumpulkan pengalaman saya sebagai kurator dengan membaca dan juga menulis sejarah Asia dan juga seni di Asia.
예, 여성 예술가로 살아가는 이야기를 담은 두 작가님들을 제가 소개하면서 또 알리아 큐레이터님이 보여주신 작가님을 통해서 우리가 근대의 어떤 여성의 여러 가지 면, 도메스틱시티에 대한 얘기, 그러니까 가부장 전통사회하고 불화하던 여성, 또 서구의 이분법적인 남녀의 구분과 불화하는 여성, 이런 것들에 힘을 내는 여성들의 이야기를 할 수 있어서 좋았습니다.
Saya merasa bangga sekali karena dalam kesempatan ini saya bisa memperkenalkan dua orang seniman terkenal dari Korea dan juga saya juga bisa bertukar pikiran dengan Ibu Kurator, Ibu Alia, dan juga memperkenalkan bagaimana wanita dan juga seni itu bisa berhubung satu sama lain dan bagaimana seni bisa menunjukkan wanita dalam berbagai bagian, bagaimana wanita itu bahagia, bagaimana wanita itu sedih, dan bagaimana seorang wanita itu berusaha di dalam kesehariannya dan juga lain sebagainya.
네, 저의 큐레이터의 짧은 경험은 아시아와 여성 또 미술에 대한 역사를 스스로 읽고 쓰는 실천이었고요. 여러분들과 오늘 이 말씀을 나누게 돼서 너무 기쁘게 생각합니다.
Saya juga bisa menceritakan seperti ini karena saya meneliti dan juga menulis mengenai sejarah Asia dan seni, dan saya senang bisa berbagi dengan Anda semua dalam kesempatan hari ini.
네, 감사합니다.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Yeah, thank you, Jong-un. Thank you, Mbak Migda, for the translation, and also Mas Didin. Now we heard already from me and from Jong-un how the process of the exhibition was started and how we are connecting the artists from Southeast Asia and Korea in this exhibition under the theme of hacking domesticity. Now we would like to invite Tessa Maria Guazon to give her response and also to expand the discussion. I think it is important as well for us to hear the stories from the Philippines and the other part of Asia that maybe can enrich our connectivity on art and women's issues in this context of contemporary art. So please, for Tessa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Aliyah, for the introduction earlier. Thank you, Jong-un. I'm very happy to be in your company. So good afternoon, everyone. I especially want to thank Aliyah for the invitation to respond to ideas in this panel discussion from the presentations of artists earlier and the presentation both by herself and Jong-un. I would start with the very interesting title of the exhibition, Hacking Domesticity. And the title presents an interesting turn towards recuperating the terms hacking and expanding the sphere of domesticity. The latent subversion in this reworking of terms situates the exhibition's curatorial framing as an act or of being in the sphere of action. So hacking domesticity implies an active engagement of the world. But what is it exactly that we are hacking? What methods of hacking do we employ as artists and curators? How would these renewed notions of hacking, which is traditionally associated with the anonymous and the covert, reframe the spheres of what has been traditionally regarded as the domestic and practices that are traditionally associated with domesticity? I took note of Aliyah's articulation of the exhibition theme earlier, and she noted that hacking may also be used to advocate our own positions, and that domesticity can mean to include the spheres beyond the private or the home, perhaps. So perhaps women are really domesticating, the public sphere. To overturn the word domesticity can refer back to this notion of domestication, to tame the unruly or the wild. But what is being presented in the exhibition is the reverse. Our discussion today brings attention to acts of reflexivity, sharing, and possibility. Exhibition curators Aliyah Swastika and Jong-un Lim bring together stories and narratives of women artists from the region, highlighting our varied her stories and their intertwined natures. How do encompassing social histories and cultural contexts inform our narratives and practices? Further, I think by the end of when the three of us and the rest of you, when we get to talk to each other, maybe we can tease out ways by which we can collaborate with each other, find ways to be together or to be in common with one another. Maybe we can start with a sobering fact. And here I will share an overview of how the pandemic has affected women in the Philippines. So many studies show that crises significantly affect women. Women bear the brunt of crisis long after they have passed. This pandemic may very well prove this. Many of us, perhaps among us here, suffered the loss of income, the postponement and cancellation of projects, or are saddled with unpaid care labor, caring for children, caring for aging parents, or domestic partners. The Southeast Asia Research Program gathered data between 2019 and 2020 that show that women suffered increasing economic insecurity, sexual violence, and the loss of education opportunities. There are 6.6 million women engaged in the informal economy in the Philippines alone, and these conditions are rife with low wages, little or no labor protection, and without paid sick leave. The same study shows that 33% of Filipino women lost their informal employment in April 2020. This situation likewise applies to women in the formal job sectors such as retail, hospitality, and education. It is not only the disruption of employment that women face. Many of us face the threat of gender-based violence. So this is a condition we all share. And when I talk to women artists or to women curators, it seems, it's easy to find convergence in thought, in idea, in position. It is also worrisome that the Philippine government has myopic plans for post-pandemic recovery. We were saddled with extended lockdowns, a lack of employment support, corruption scandals, and looming national elections for 2022. I should probably mention that the Interagency Task Force on COVID-19 is an all-male body headed by a misogynist president with the arrogance of bestowing the title of czar to task force members. So over here in the Philippines, we have the vaccine czar, the testing czar, and so on. But the task force has not forwarded policies that concern the welfare of women. So earlier, it was good listening to artists Agnes Cristina at Same Isiara, Saus Raymao, and yes, those three artists. But it is also good to know about the works of the other artists from Aliyah and Jong-un. And I realized that their artistic practices speak to the imperiled state of our common world. Earlier, they were asked about their narratives and the mediums of their choice. And some of them responded that they have similar concerns, but probably different approaches. Another question that arose earlier has to do with artivism. And several of them said that, well, and this is how I interpret those answers, is that the practice is deeply entwined in life or living. Curators are often asked about their choices for projects, specifically how artists and corresponding works are chosen for exhibitions. And let me bring forth this term, transnational feminism. Art historian and curator Maura Riley and Linda Nochlin curated the first exhibition of feminist art worldwide. The exhibition was titled Global Feminism, New Directions in Contemporary Art, and it was at the Brooklyn Museum's Elizabeth Sackler Center for Feminist Art. It opened in 2007. Riley, who wrote about the experience of curating the exhibition, noted the challenge of representing transnational feminisms through an art exhibition. Their selection of works for global feminism covered, and I quote from her, wide selection of young to mid-career women artists, all born after 1960, from an array of cultures whose work visually manifests their identities, whether sociocultural, political, economic, racial, gender, sexual, in myriad innovative ways, end quote. The exhibition underscored feminism as a worldwide activist project and is premised on common differences. So what exactly is this notion of a common difference? Riley cites Chandra Talpade Mohanty's definition of this concept as, quote, the exploration of significant similarities as well as the contextual differences among women across and within cultures, races, classes, to generate fresh approaches to feminist artistic production in a transnational age and to produce new insights into feminist art today, end quote. So the questions I raised this afternoon in response to the presentations by curators Aliyah Swastika and Jong-Un Lim would be the following. How might we engage this concept of a transnational feminism in the context of Asia? It is indeed a paradox that we are as connected as we are fragmented in this historical moment, as many of the works in the exhibition would show, as the Coca-Cola bottles from World War II were shored up to, Okinawa. So as Jong-Un said, we share the trash, we share the world. No? What curatorial coordinates can we devise to engage further and articulate this idea of a feminist project that is transnational? What platforms can we create or design that would allow women to explore artistic expression, converse about their common differences, and be in common, to be with one another? No? More importantly, what new forms of solidarities can women establish that are informed and propelled by the language of art and the strategies and tactics devised through art? So I've heard this mentioned several times, no? The need to form solidarities. How do we take risks together as artists and curators and allow this risk-taking process to open up new spaces where women can be together? So Aliyah, do we still have time? Can I still show slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
So I think those questions really encapsulate my response to Aliyah's and Jong-Un's presentations. And I think we are all concerned with trying to find ways to explore these questions. Probably there are no definite answers to them. But what we can do is to really find new platforms for exchange, collaboration, and conversation. Aliyah mentioned earlier that conversation was a crucial element of the curatorial process. No, I think when we work with women artists, when we work with women colleagues, we try to generate this intimacy. No, intimacy is an important component to our work relationships. So at this point, maybe I can just share some of the projects I did in the Philippines that included works by women artists. So this will be very quick. And later, when the three of us and the rest of you converse with us, maybe we can try to find ways to identify the platforms that we all dream of, spaces where we can talk to each other and articulate our common differences. So this will be very quick. So I have been quite fortunate to have curated and organized exhibition projects with some older generation of women artists from the Philippines and also younger artists. In these projects, I aimed at presenting an intergenerational lens by which to view their practices and engagements. So I think I would consciously choose to show the works of a more mature woman artist alongside the work of a mid-career or a young artist. So this was a conscious choice to engage to engage the works of a generation of women artists, and also to engage existing collection of works, especially in exhibitions presented in museums and similar institutions. Foremost, I fed my curiosity incessantly and made time to visit studios, to listen well, and to ask questions with genuine interest. So some of the exhibitions I did that had works by women artists include traversals, trajectories, expansive localities. For the place of region in the contemporary, a project by the Philippine Contemporary Art Network and the UP, the University of the Philippines Vargas Museum. This included works by young women artists Henriel Pagkaliwangan, Isha Nagiat, Dumay Solingay, Faye Alea Abantao. So I will not discuss each of the work, but just to show you the range of expressions that these women artists explore and present in these specific exhibitions. Also included in the exhibition was a painting by artist Kitty Taniguchi, a contemporary of Imelda Kahipe Andaya, one of the pioneers of feminist art in the Philippines, and photojournalist Kat Palasi. So Henriel Pagkaliwangan's work, Kat Palasi's photographs. This is Dubai Sulingay doing a durational performance during the exhibit in which the audience would sit beside her, put on the headphones, and listen to her recite a poem. The works of the framed works on the wall are by Faye Alea Abantao. Okay. The painting is by Kitty Taniguchi. These works, prints on fabrics, is by young artist Isha Nagiat. Okay, for the tropical cyclone exhibition in Taipei, I included works by So Yi Ao, another work, commissioned work by Liu Yu, and a video documentation of Wu Mali's Plum Tree Creek project alongside a photograph from the museum collection. Okay, this is a public art project I did, and these are two works by women artists. So there were three artists, and I chose two women artists. No? This is Piades by artist Agnes Arellano, and To Blossom or Pagpamulak in the Vernacular by artist Lee Pahe. The exhibition I co-curated with Taiwanese colleague Fang Tse Su, Gendered Bodies in Southeast Asia at the Metropolitan Museum of Manila, focused on works by women artists from the region. Participating artists included pioneers, Brenda Fajardo. These are installation views. So I made it a point to look through the museum collection and choose works by women artists. Imelda Kahipe Andaya, Amanda Heng, and Wu Mali. So this is a piece by Ajani Arumpak, a single channel video installation, and photographs by Denise Weldon. We also had works by photojournalist Nana Buksani, filmmaker Ajani Arumpak, a video piece by Natalie Dagmang and Ampani Sato, and I integrated them into pieces from the museum collection, including works by Pasabad Santos, Anna Fair, Seni Nguyen Trinity, Suwan Wu, Wu Mali, and Yin Ju Chen. So some installation views. This is Brenda Fajardo, Imelda Kahipe Andaya, and the performance piece, the Filipino Superwoman Band by Isa Huxon, Bonnie Kadak, Catherine Go, Francesca Kasaway, and Teresa Barroso. So this is Amanda Heng's durational performance, Let's Chat. Okay. I consciously choose to work with women artists for my research and curatorial projects to create spaces for conversation, exchange, and reflection. I rely on the hope that this choice propels women forward and would allow the creation of empowering spaces for women, both within and beyond the art world. I will end my presentation by citing projects that exemplify these intersections of spaces, meaning artists working beyond the art world and creating spaces alongside communities outside of the art world. These include the workshops designed, facilitated, and conducted by Alma Quinto, Natalie Dagmang, and myself for a research on neighborhoods in Southeast Asia. So we held a series of workshops with homeless women and their children, itinerant vendors. So these are women who live on the streets. So we've been working with them since 2017. So here they are. Here we are during a cookout and a personal history timeline workshop. I would also like to mention with another project, a series of publications spearheaded by the feminist group Gantala Press, and they work with peasant women. Here we see the covers of two publications. Kumusta kayo? Roughly translated, that means how are you? Naratibo ng kababaihang magbubukid ngayong pandemya. These are stories of women peasant workers during the pandemic. And the other one is a recipe book. So this is another project by Gantala Press. So these are bound cloth with words sewn on the sheets. And lastly, this is a more recent project. This is a series of virtual events for the Kubustahan Project, organized by artists Natalie Dagmang, Alma Quinto, Henriel Pagkaliwangan, and Father Jason Lee. They worked alongside Filipino domestic workers and care workers in London, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and they were trying to replicate this. It's a procession that we call Santa Cruzan or Flores de Mayo, but they did everything virtually or remotely, through virtual space. And the women had sessions making paper flowers. They had sessions for drawing and sketching, so these activities help them share their stories. To my mind, curators should continue to challenge existing exhibition models and curatorial coordinates to move the feminist project forward. So I end the reflection here. Maybe we can expand on them more in conversation with both Aliyah and Jong-un. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tessa, for the response and presentation of your own practice on how you read and also create the space for conversation of women and curators, artists and curators in Southeast Asia and beyond. I think from your response, I took note of these three important points on how you mentioned about the terms of transnational feminism and how we can together use this as something that connecting us, but also empowering us, not only maybe struggle against the patriarch system and the masculine dominations in the art world, but as mentioned by Jong-un, also we are struggle to against and to face the power of capitalism. So it's not only the patriarch, but the system of capitalism itself that also repress women's life and positions. And then also you mentioned about how we can form the solidarity and overcome different contexts because the different situations of its locations, and how can we bring together different stories as our way of articulating and giving our voice together. And then one of the most interesting, I think, from your various points is also how we use intimacy as a method. I think that can be an offer for curatorial practice that being practiced by not only female curators, but also practitioners. Jong-un, do you want to respond to Tessa's presentation?
Alia, thank you. Your explain to our collaboration. Yeah, I think it is enough. Thank you. And how can I say to the about my presentation? 뭘 얘기해야 될까? 뭘 얘기할까요? 이 전시, I will talk the bahasa Indonesia with my translator. 저는 그 이번 전시를 준비하면서 그 우리가 더 많이 연결될 수 있고, 그 다음에 더 많은 일들을 여성들이 할 수 있을 것 같은 가능성을 많이 봤습니다.
Sebetulnya saya melihat dari pameran saat ini yang juga saya bantu dan juga saya persiapkan bahwa kita semua itu bisa terhubung satu sama lain melalui sejarah juga dan juga karena kita semua adalah perempuan.
Yeah, so maybe I translate the summary. So for Jong-un, it is important to highlight that through different experience of exhibition making, we can also connect each other through history and a different experience because we are women and we are all working in the arts. So I would like to respond to the transnational feminism. So for example, if we put the transnational more specific into the issue of decoloniality, for example, because when we discuss transnational, there are different complex issues as well, like internationalism, global art world. It's kind of like lots of layers needs to be explained as well. So for me now, it is important also not only to deconstruct the idea of this internationalism in the issue of feminism, but also how can we decolonize and also introduce like specific context of feminism in our own local situations. So for example, from our conversations today, either from those artists, from Jong-un and also from Tessa, for me it is interesting to highlight also the practice of traditional art that going beyond the issue of romanticism or nostalgia or just keeping the traditions, but actually we have to look into this practice of traditional art making more as a way to preserve the knowledge of women. So the tradition is not only the form and not only the style, but tradition is actually the platform for women to articulate their thoughts and knowledge. I think that also something that needs, it is important to be discussed further, because sometimes I feel, for example, what happened in Indonesia, the lack of representation of women artists in the history also was constructed by the fact that many of women's work in the past was considered as craft and also tradition, and that is not art. So that's why I think in many contexts of Asia, the dominant figures of male artists in the history, in the art history, really not only ignoring the role of women, but also ignoring the knowledge that they produce through the traditional objects. I think it is important for us as female curators also to discuss these positions. That's also part of what we call as transnational feminism, how in the art history we can converse each other and advocate to like the erasing of certain form, the erasing of traditional forms missing from our modern art history. That's my first response to your transnational. So not only putting the transnational feminism as network, but also going forward for decoloniality of the art history itself. And yeah, I think the intimacy as method, as I mentioned before, was a very interesting approach, and I believe that intimacy not only giving us the platform to know each other, but also articulating feelings and articulating emotion that most of the time being ignored in the modern society, because feelings sometimes being interpreted as something weak, as a weakness, or something domestic, or something private. But I think from the works of those women artists that we saw today from different presentations, we can see also how emotions and feelings and memory and trauma also can be transformed into something empowering and giving us the spirit to build the solidarity itself.
Right. So, Aliyah, if I may add to that.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yes. I think we can highlight how crucial historicizing is, and presencing and intersectionality can be curatorial approaches we can employ. The intersection of spaces, of advocacies, and the importance of presencing women in history, as Jong-un mentioned earlier. I think from Jong-un, I also noted that she mentioned the need to provide aesthetic and political opportunities. So in the context of Asia, I think much of that rests on curators. Like, how do we find platforms for artists to realize their ideas, for them to interact closely with fellow artists in a different locality? So I think we can also think beyond, we can consider platforms beyond the exhibition. And in the process, rethink really what is the exhibitionary and what are the forms that we can explore to expand this framework of the exhibitionary. So say, for example, one of the projects I'm doing, the Neighborhoods Research Project, we were not talking about putting up, an exhibition as we know it. Probably along the way, we'll think of that. But we were concerned with how the strategies of contemporary art can be mobilized to understand what's happening in cities. So there, just to highlight three approaches: the importance of historicizing, an emphasis on intersectionality, and the act of presencing by way of history and exhibition making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to expand also the conversations, not only between artists, curators, or art managers or practitioners, but from my experience and in having this Hacking Domesticity exhibition, it is also very interesting to bring the audience to be part of the conversation. Because we did some tours here, and I got like very interesting and important response from the younger generations of the audience, where for them it is important to understand the context of different culture. Because what happened, I think the exhibition space also giving them the new knowledge or the new platform for learning the other history, the history that is not really being exposed by the mainstream media or the mainstream text, and then they learn from the artist practice of what happened in women's experience in other contexts. I think that's also one of my highlights from the exhibition itself. So it's not only the intimacy between artists, curators, and the art organizers or practitioners, but it's really also how we engage the audience in the conversations. Mas Didin, if you can check from the YouTube, if there is any comment from anyone. Okay, I think for Jong-un, we have quite limited time, because she ran a room for the conference and the translations. Yes, so thank you very much for your effort of being in this discussion and conversations. I think, rather than to have conclusions of the conversation, for me, it is now more like the new opening platform for the next collaborations. I think from our experience, it is still very limited, the platform to bring
Yes.
together the thing and the text, and as mentioned by Tessa, the effort of historicizing not only the role of women in the society, but also in the art world itself. And I think this still need lots of homeworks between curators and researchers and practitioners, academics also. I think it is important also to bring academics into these conversations, because most of the text that being canonized by the art world also involve the academic works. So I think, yeah, do you want to say the last words, Tessa, before we close the sessions?
Oh, I will just echo what Jong-un said. She said that all of us own art. No, we all own art, and I
Yeah.
think for our advocacies as curators is to see art as an agent of change. No, to transform the world, to change the world.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
totally. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jong-un and Tessa. Even though we have maybe not so much time, but it is important for us even to understand each other practice, for me to understand as well the recent projects by Jong-un, and how do you see the connection between South Korea and Southeast Asia becoming one of important point of your curatorial practice. And also, of course, with Tessa, I think it's been always open possibility for collaboration. And I think also in the context of Indonesia and Philippines, we have lots of similarities in the gender issues, not only about what happened in our country itself, but also the phenomena of the domestic workers that still become one of the main topic of discussions when we talk about gender issues in our countries and our context. So yeah, I think we hope that there is still possibility for us to meet and discuss further. But what we have today, I think it's important to highlight the importance of maintaining the networks and building the solidarity, not only as the slogan, but then also it's the empathy to look into differences and different historical contexts, including trauma of violence, trauma of the racial collective chaos, as we heard from Tessa, from Agnes before, and also to appreciate and to commemorate the struggle of women as being recorded by Fitri's, Deka's work and Etsa's work on how women become the hero of our ecological struggle in fighting capitalism, in fighting the destroy of environment. So I think there are many different stories need to be shared, and I'm looking forward of seeing each of your projects in the future, and keep the spirit of bringing the voice of women artists here. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Aliyah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jong-un. Thank you, Tessa.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Yeah, Mas Didin, should we do the photo groups together?
Okay. 보고용으로 해야 되는
Yeah, I would like to thank also while we are waiting for Mas Didin to prepare the photo sessions. I would like to highlight again the collaboration that happened between the Jogja Biennale 16, Equator 6, 2021 with the ASEAN Foundation through the program ASEAN Connect. I think this is a very important, I think it's quite important point for us as well that the Biennale dedicated an exhibition for women's artists to discuss women's experience and women's as the main discourse of the contemporary art practice. So thank you very much for the whole staff of ASEAN Foundation for making it happen. and also to Jong-un as our co-curators, and also all the artists that participate in our project this time. I didn't see Siren and Changjia this time, but looking forward to meet them in person in the future. Okay, we can open our camera, everyone here. Ya, Mas? Baru, Okay. Sudah belum nih? Okay. Mas Didin said it's already done. Okay. I didn't feel anything as well. Okay. See you soon. I hope that the borders will open again and we have the possibility to meet and discuss in person-to-person meeting in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you Kaohsiung and see you Yogyakarta.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have
Thank
a
you.
good
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye-bye.
And looking forward to when we meet in person.
Yeah, me
Bye-bye.
too. Bye. Good luck for all the projects ahead.
And congratulations to you both.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Roots, roots. Binale Jogja 16, 2021.